This is Brother Keith Bodden, who is chairperson of the Armed Forces and Veterans Affairs Committee of the state NAACP and is on the executive board. And he is here as a strong ally. He spoke last year, and he represents what the NAACP really has always stood for, not what the president of the NAACP did when he took some money for his convention from firemen last year, but Keith Bodden is a true hero of social justice and human rights, and I thank you for speaking today, Keith Bodden.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Liberty State Park is a NAACP heritage park. Founded by Morris Pessin, NAACP activists during that most difficult period, 1930 to 1990. In 1975, the most difficult time, he founded Liberty State Park. A moment of silence, please, for Morris Pessin. Thank you. And now let's raise our hands, our fists, to his son, Sam Pessin, and to his family. They have taken their own financial resources to keep this movement going. Again, a fist. And I just want to say, this is not unusual, a billionaire backing an event for all people or not backing an event for all people. Remember 1776? Okay. But in 1776, the question is presented. Why did slavery and segregation last 200 years? Because of billionaires who wanted to build the free enterprise system with slavery and cheap labor. Those were the billionaires that the activists, the NAACP and others, had to go against. And we won. And we're still winning. And I might add, I use my own financial resources to support the events of the Armed Forces and Veterans Committee. I don't go to anyone outside my family. And I want to salute my wife of 60 years over there for giving me permission and the pocket money to support the NAACP when I asked for it. I'll be back next week. Now, let's look very closely. When we look at the activist of the last 300 centuries, I am an immigrant from Jamaica who came here in the last century. And when I look back at Jamaica, I see Marcus Garvey. And I say to Marcus Garvey, would you be here today? And he says, yes, Marcus Garvey would be here today. When my parents settled down in Brooklyn, I became a Brooklyn news carrier. And back in 1951, at a celebration of the news carriers of the Brooklyn Eagle, we went to the hotel in Brooklyn, and Jackie Robinson was the main speaker. This is 1951, right after 1947. Jackie Robinson would be here today supporting this. When I settled down in Brooklyn and became a part of the great public school of Brooklyn, they would take field trips. Part of the field trips would be to the NAACP headquarters in New York City. And there I met the great NAACP leaders, and I know they would be here today. I know that W.E. Du Bois, who I never met, would be here today supporting this event. And I know that Rosa Parks from the back of the bus would come up front and say, I am supporting Liberty State Park. And in 1976, I was the coordinator of the U.S. Pennsylvania Bicentennial, the 200 years of the bicentennial. And one of the speakers was Roy Wilkins. And I would meet him at the airport as we go around the state at the various events, carrying his little bag. And one of the things he said as he go around, I will always support the events of the people. That was the bicentennial of Pennsylvania. And Roy Wilkins would have been here today saying, I support Liberty State Park Protection Act. And as part of that field trip that the great public school system would take, they took me down and others to Princeton University. We met Albert Einstein. That is correct. Albert Einstein, E equals MC squared, would be here today protecting clean air. My wife, myself, and children, we're leaving a restaurant in Washington, D.C. Malcolm X walks out, and we shake his hand. We talked briefly. And one of the things that we talked briefly was about Liberty State Park. Nah, not really. But anyway, he told me he would be here today supporting Liberty State Park. Now, as we go forward, I want to take my hat off, and for those who remember the last time I had 4 hats, this is my NAACP hat. We have an action item passed by the New Jersey Executive Committee of the NAACP that tells me, as the chair of the NAACP as the NAACP Armed Forces and Veterans Committee, there is an action item of our committee that supports Liberty State Park. And I want to make that very clear. The Executive Committee of the NAACP New Jersey State Conference passed an action item of the Armed Forces and VA Committee to support to support the Liberty State Park. And anyone that wants a copy can see this gentleman over here, this great activist, Sam Pessin. In closing, over in Brooklyn, as I look to the left, I can see Prospect Park. Prospect Park was a protected park and still is. But at the end of Prospect Park was Soldiers Field. That's where the Civil War soldiers assembled in Brooklyn and came down to where that bridge is today. The bridge wasn't there. And took boats and ferry over to Staten Island, marched to the end of Staten Island, then boats and ferries to Pennsylvania, where they went to war to win the Civil War for the North. Soldiers Field today is dedicated to youth, baseball, softball, basketball. And in my youth, I, again, would play baseball there. And then every once in a while I would get a job at Ebbets Field selling hot dogs, whatever. No questions asked. And I can tell you again, and I stress, Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, Gil Hodges, Billy Cox, Duke Snyder. Did I left anyone out? They would all be supported of Liberty State Park. Quickly. And Morris is telling me, Sam is telling me to keep it quiet. Okay, I'm going to continue very quickly. This is the bicentennial of my school, Pennsylvania Military College, now Widener University. In 1960, I graduated, degree in chemistry, commissioned in the U.S. Army, nuclear weapons officer. This school was founded by Dr. Bullock from South Jersey. Dr. Bullock, we are now celebrating the bicentennial of my college. And next month, at the homecoming, I will be asking the veterans and the students and the faculties of Widener University to support Liberty State Park, because John Bullock, the founder from South Jersey, would be here today supporting it. And I thank you. Let us continue to support. But more important, let us continue peacefully to honor those U.S. veterans, those civilians that have made us more free and that have made the Constitution live for all of us. Thank you so much. For Liberty State Park Protection Act, Keith Bodden and wife Yvonne Bodden from Brooklyn.